Hey, Aaron, you there?
How's it going?
Hey, good. We are live doing the podcast. Aaron and I are both here. What do you want to talk about?
I'm not sure.
What's the biggest thing that came up for you today with clients? What do you think a lot of people are getting stuck on with their fitness and their goals and everything?
I would say that in general, it's just not necessarily today, but in general, it's remembering your goals and ensuring that your path that you're following is the most efficient and proper way of going about reaching your goal instead of
Nice. Yeah.
working out and doing something that you think is doing the right thing, but it's actually going against your goal.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me of the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demands. And it was interesting because I was just out a couple hours ago walking around the Rose Garden and talking to a former neighbor of mine who is, he wanted to get in better shape. And so what he started doing was he joined a boxing gym. And I thought that was interesting. Like he's trying to regulate, his blood pressure and get everything healthy again, but he goes straight to boxing. So definitely, yeah, that's something that I like encouraging people is just get very specific on your goal and don't do something just because you think it's going to make you fit. But what specifically do you need? Most people just need simple stretches and gentle exercises, really to achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah, I would say if your goal, get clear and concise on what your goal is, and if you want to be a bodybuilder, then maybe just stretching alone isn't the program you should follow. If you want to get good at a marathon, just doing bodybuilding isn't probably the best thing you should be doing. And if you want to just get out of pain, then lifting heavy weights might not also be the best way to go about that. So yeah, just think there's a way that if there was a way that people can get clear and concise on what their goals truly are, and being able to follow a program that suits them, that's a good way to mitigate yourself from trying different things like buffet training, where you get to try different different foods in a buffet. You don't want to do that with your program unless that's your goal. If your goal is just to kind of do everything and be generally fit, then buffet training might be good for you.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so get clear and concise. And how would you say someone can get clear and concise on their goals
I
instead
think
of
yeah, I mean, that's a great question because I think the first step is, well, actually, I think in this day and age, and we can Google anything. I think the best thing to do first is to find a role model, especially if you have never been fit yourself. Finding a role model, either somebody you know personally, or maybe a movie star, or literally anybody, to be a role model, and kind of figure out what they do. Again, going back to what you just said, my role models used to be those guys who were in like the X-Men movies and all the superhero movies. And then I researched their training program and I realized how ridiculous it is. And they spend like 3 months before the movie shoot and they're eating like 3 pounds of beef a day. And it's just crazy. And they're all talking about it and like, oh yeah, I thought I was gonna die and the workouts are so hard and blah blah blah. And so kind of got me thinking about that. But yeah, kind of finding a role model, I think is step number one. Figuring out, or that role model could be the version of yourself from maybe 5 years ago when you actually were in shape, and then emulating that and doing it again. Doing again what you did back then.
yeah, I think that's a good starting place for a lot of people. Um, who do you think a good role model is for most people to follow today? Mainstream fitness is still kind of stuck in the 70s, where in the 80s, where it's all about low fat food and having a six pack and always doing cardio.
Hmm.
So through all this minutia, who should people start following?
Hey, I think it gives us a 5 minute time limit. I think we just got cut off.
Are you there?
Yep, you hear me? Nope. Hello, hello? We're experiencing some technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
I
Hello?
can.
Hello, hello? Hello, hello?
Yep.
Right. This episode is sponsored by. Okay, there's our commercial right there. Yeah, I was basically talking about just examples. That was a good question you had. Um, I think doing strongman training is awesome, even for 55-year-old females who never have weightlifting experience in their life. But yeah, that's a tough one because you're right. A lot of the kind of mainstream, these crazy workouts that no average person wants to do or needs to do. I think I mean, I think you and I are the best examples because we're moderate. We're not extreme, crazy workouts, but we're fit. And yeah,
So what would you
that's my
say
answer.
to the women out there who
Yes.
you're telling to do some strongman training? What would you tell them about lifting weights? Because I know a lot of my friends who are women and moms and even grandmas who say, "Oh, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get too bulky." What would you say to them? Because you and I both know that that won't happen because they're lower on testosterone and other variables. But what would you say to women who
Shoot.
want
I
to
could
lose?
barely hear you. I think it was cutting out a little bit. But what I would say to women who don't want to get bulky is basically that there's not enough testosterone in your body to get bulky no matter how hard you lift. You would have to take some crazy supplements and turn back the clock 30 years. Generally, though, lifting weights gives you the result that people think cardio gives you. Weights heavy for you, doesn't have to be like 3,000 pounds, heavy for you, challenging, difficult. And then I also really strongman training because it's practical. Almost everything in the strongman is a squat. It's like picking up groceries off the floor, putting them away, right? It's all practical, functional stuff. So, yeah, but generally they're not going to get all veiny and, crazy looking. Pretty hard to get like that, even if you were trying to.
Nice. So how does someone who's just starting out get started with that lifting weights? Do they just go straight to a gym, or how do they assess themselves? What's the best way to get started?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question because you and we've kind of created that assessment that we use with our clients, and I think that's a great first step. And definitely in the next month or two, we need to get that more accessible online because I think that's the start, right? We assess how strong are they really, and we know that beginners need to do more isolation work like bicep curls and tricep extension, side lateral raise, stuff like that. And intermediates need to do more compound, but even that is only like a 2-joint movement. And then more advanced trainees could start doing the strong lifts and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the answer is just a realistic assessment of where you really are. Keeping it simple, allowing enough rest, all that, letting the weightlifting become, just like 20 to 50% of your whole workout. Still doing some cardio, walking, running, and definitely lots of core work.
Now, let's say
But
someone's going, they got their assessment, they have their idol who they're following, and they're on their program. Should at any point during their training regimen, should they feel any pain or soreness or tightness, or what's appropriate for them to feel if they're not really in tune with their bodies?
that's a good question. So, yeah, so there's definitely a difference between pain and work. While you're doing the workout, you want to feel work, never pain, never anything sharp. So it should feel more like a dull burn, right? After, the next day or even later that day, or even 2 days later, a little bit of soreness is okay. This is usually normal. And we're about to take a quick break. I think we're headed up to another 5 minutes right here. So we'll take All right. I think we're coming up to the limit for the podcast. But Aaron, do you want to close out with any additional thoughts? Any last words?
No, I think that both of us as trainers, we can train very varying people, all walks of life throughout the entire socioeconomic and physical abilities for people. But I think that our best ability is to train people who are either beginners or they don't know what they're doing. They don't know which protocol to follow. They don't know where they are in their training. They might start a program and they just need some guidance. I think that we are really good at taking those individuals and taking them to the next level when they are stuck at a plateau. So I just want to say that the tips that Chris gave were really good tips on finding idols that you want to emulate and follow the program that they're following, as long as it's a safe and progressive. It's in a safe and progressive manner where you're never going to feel any sharp pains during your workout. You might feel sore, but you're constantly progressing and measuring your gains in whether it's whatever your goal is, whether it's getting out of pain or gaining muscle or getting faster. Whatever your goal is, as long as you can measure it and it's a safe, progressive way, I think that's the best way to go about your program.
And I think the big thing, you mentioned buffet training, and the reason why it doesn't work is because we, as humans, we adapt so quickly to new things, and then we lose that adaptation. I know I've definitely felt this. If I don't exercise for a week or two, getting back in, it's like starting from scratch. So that concept of progressive overload, and progressing a very specific program to your specific goals is key. And I did this a couple weeks ago. I need to get back on it, but I asked every client, every appointment, okay, what's your goal? Remind me of your goal, because I want you to remember as you're doing the exercise that this workout is actually leading somewhere, which is very important. Yeah. But Aaron, thank you so much for joining me. This is awesome. I think
Thank you.
I think we should do this. We should do this, and you should start up your own podcast. This is a pretty cool app on Anchor, and it'll automatically link up to the iTunes, the podcast. But yeah, at least we can at least chat, and I want to get some or if you know anybody who has questions, who wants to pick a trainer's brain for 10 minutes, I think this would be really fun. So, or you listening, if you want to call in, or actually, I think real easy, text me at 408-883-4442, and then we can arrange a time to have this quick chat. So I'm really excited about this because I think this could help some people.
Thank you for the time, for being on the show. Thank you very much. Hope somebody learned something.
All right, cool. Thanks, Aaron. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.